Hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Cassie Knoll and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Let's start with a look at some of the top weather stories from around the country. And in space, how about this one? NASA astronaut Zena Cardman posted a video of the northern lights that could be seen from aboard the International Space Station last week. You can see the stunning spectacle of green light shimmering over the United States. Zena is currently aboard the ISS and posted this video on November 17th. She called it, quote, a frequent show in space, but admitted that she has not actually seen them from the ground yet. Hurricane Melissa will go down in the record books for many reasons, and one of those will be for wind gust speed. As the storm was approaching Jamaica last month, hurricane hunters dropped a specially developed weather instrument called a dropsonde into the storm. One of those instruments recorded a wind gust of 252 miles per hour. Scientists at the National Center for Atmospheric Research at the National Science Foundation just verified that reading. That means that the 252 mile per hour wind gust in Melissa is the highest wind speed ever recorded. The previous record was a 248 mile per hour wind gust measured by those same instruments during Typhoon Maggie in 2010. In California, a strong low pressure system brought rain to the lower elevations and heavy snow to the Sierra Nevada mountains. Mammoth Mountain ski area received more than 3 feet of snow last week. The first runs opened last Thursday, and snow lovers are overjoyed for such a great start to the season. This snow is also critical to California's water supply through the rest of the year. And that's not snow that you're seeing in this video. That's actually hail, more accurately graupel, falling in Phoenix last Wednesday. The same low pressure system that affected California moved east into the Four Corners region, and with enough cold air just above the surface, super cold water droplets were able to coat and freeze into falling snowflakes, creating this soft hail called graupel. And in Minnesota, 2 boys are sharing a cautionary tale, and it may just save someone's life in the future. A 14-year-old and his younger brother were fishing on a lake last week when they fell through the ice. As Matt Henson explains, even though going out on the ice was a bad choice, first responders credit them for making choices that helped to save their own lives.
Right there, that little kind of bubble type area, that's right where we fell through.
14-year-old Gabe Savage points to the area on Straight Lake in Osage, where Gabe and his 13-year-old brother had to be rescued on Tuesday afternoon.
Just itching to fish, just itching to get out on early ice.
Gabe said he surveyed the ice with his brother before going out and noticed the ice appeared to be thin. That's why they did not walk on the ice, but used their otter sled to slide across with an ice pick. It turned out the ice was only an inch thick.
We just pushed ourselves out there and we used that to make our holes and stuff, and then after that it kind of just, the water started coming out of the holes, and after that we really weighed it down, started cracking, and we just caved in.
A neighbor who was watching the boys noticed what happened about 100 yards from shore and called 911. This is drone video from the Becker County Sheriff's Office of the conditions at the time of the rescue. The water and ice combo made it difficult to rescue the boys. It took about 25 minutes to reach them.
You could feel the ice vibrating and stuff, and I just kind of had the idea in my mind that we could capsize, but so thankful we didn't.
While the boys may have made a bad choice to go out on the thin ice, they are being given credit for making a good decision.
My one son actually had a life jacket on, and my other son has a suit that has some flotation devices built into the suit itself, ice fishing suit.
First responders said the use of the otter sled was critical in keeping them above water and dry until help arrived.
I'm so glad that I didn't drown or get hypothermia. I could still be in the hospital right now, or who knows.
Gabe admits sharing his story is embarrassing, but thought his message could save others from making the same choice.
It's important to me because I want other people to realize that they should just wait, and how dangerous it is to be out on ice this early, and when it's this thin, just not a smart idea. And I should have realized that yesterday.
A fishtail these brothers will tell for years to come about the dangers of thin ice. In Osage, Matt Henson, WDAY News.
Ski resorts are getting ready for the winter season, but what happens when the weather doesn't cooperate? Resorts are turning to experts whose full-time jobs are figuring out the art and science of snowmaking. Connor McGill talked to one of those experts.
Well, they might as well call you Mr. Snow with your knowledge.
I don't know if I get that far, but I certainly love it.
Meet Brendan Ryan, a principal at Alpine Solutions. He's one of the experts ski resorts turn to as they try to adapt their snowmaking plans to a changing climate. For him, this all started early.
At one point, our neighbors came over and said, "Why is that boy outside in the snow?" And they couldn't get me inside. When I had an opportunity to, dig into it a little bit deeper and ultimately turn it into a career, I didn't stop.
And now that lifelong passion has turned into a national job, helping ski resorts from around the country figure out how to make snow when the weather doesn't always cooperate.
With climate change going on, snowmaking is becoming more and more important every year.
And that's why Sugar Bowl is thinking years ahead.
Currently, we actually are under a master plan project for our snowmaking system, which we want to expand.
Because even with some help from Mother Nature, snowmaking is still a science.
A lot of science.
There is a lot of science behind it, yeah. It's not just flipping on the guns and going. Just for example, right now when it's snowing, generally we can't make snow because it's too humid to do it.
And as temperatures and humidity swing more widely year to year, experts like Ryan have to customize plans for every mountain.
Every resort's different. I live in Conway, New Hampshire, and it's quite a bit different operating out there than it is, say, at Sugar Bowl. But it's exciting and it's amazing. At the end of the day, we're all trying to create an amazing skiing experience, by using air and water to make snow.
And speaking of wintry weather, we already had some earlier this month in East Tennessee. The official start to winter is just around the corner, which means it is time for Chief Meteorologist Todd Howell to share his forecast for the upcoming cold season.
Okay, it's that time of year again, our winter weather outlook for the upcoming winter season. Now, once again, we're expecting a weak La Nina for the first part of winter. Looks like we may go from a weak La Nina to neutral conditions throughout the winter season. What does that mean? Typically, it means warmer and drier conditions for parts of the southeast and even into parts of the Tennessee Valley. Wetter than average conditions are typically to our north. So for us, near average precipitation, slightly above average temperatures will be the forecast overall for the whole winter season. Now, this is one of the most important graphics that we can show you. Where do you typically see the greatest snowfall? Typically, the Cumberland Plateau, Kentucky, Virginia, mountains and foothills. In the valley, we typically see less. It all depends on that specific winter storm track. So overall, for the winter season, we're expecting 9 to 13 inches of snowfall, a range for the plateau. The average is 10. Here in the valley, about 4 to 8 inches. The average is just over 4.5. And for the mountains and foothills, 10 to 20 inches of snow. The average is 9 inches. For a much more thorough and detailed explanation of the winter weather outlook, you can go right now to WBIR+.
As Todd mentioned, you can watch the whole thing right now on WBIR+, but to summarize what he just said, we have a chance for above average temperatures overall with some cold spells expected along the way and the possibility of slightly above average snowfall. Now, you also heard Todd mention La Nina potentially increasing our long range forecast. Well, it should be noted that the effects from that large scale climate pattern are generally felt more strongly to our north and to our south. Also this year, the Climate Prediction Center is highlighting the fact that this is a weak La Nina, meaning that we may not see the conventional winter impacts that tend to happen in that pattern, though it could still influence our weather, aka there is a higher than normal level of uncertainty with this winter forecast. Now, because of our geographical location, East Tennessee weather is actually affected by almost every single system moving across the country. Our weather here in the eastern U.S. is actually more strongly influenced by the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation. Now, both of those patterns can either be positive or negative, and the phase that they are in is determined by the pressure difference between a semi-permanent ridge of high pressure across the Atlantic Ocean and a semi-permanent area of low pressure near the Arctic. And then there's the polar vortex. Now, this is not a new term and it's not a new thing. They've just become kind of popular buzzwords in recent years. When the AO and the NAO are positive, the polar vortex stays strong and stable and that cold air is contained to the north. But when those oscillations go negative, the jet stream and the polar vortex can wobble more, allowing that cold air to come flowing down into the lower 48. So that's something we watch, and that's only during a short-term forecast period, by the way. It's only good about 10 to 14 days in advance. So that's why you got to just check back often for updates to the forecast and know that we will have cold spells during this winter season despite the overall above average forecast for temperatures. Now, winter is on the way, and that means periods of cloudier, weather, and shorter days, and for some, seasonal depression. Derek Tritz reports on the psychology behind that yearly phenomenon and how you can find ways to ease the effects of those colder and darker days.
Daylight hours decrease in the fall and early winter, and even when the sun is out, it's often covered by clouds. Our very own Jeff Weller says the transition from warm to cold weather is a recipe for cloudy days.
Warm air and cold air like to fight. Whenever they fight, they produce clouds.
The annual duel between warm air and cold air can bring sunshine to as low as 26%.
The main jet stream pulls a bit north of us, and that pulls up moisture from the Gulf, and that gives us moisture in the atmosphere while temperatures are cooling off, and thus you get cloud cover.
And according to Jason Seward, a licensed psychologist with the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, sunlight can directly affect your brain.
When you go outside and your eyes absorb sunlight, it will cause a neurotransmitter called serotonin to be released. And serotonin is directly related to your mood state.
Less serotonin typically means a worse mood.
It's hard to be optimistic, but also you see things like greater fatigue, greater exhaustion. You'll see people with sleep disruptions.
It even affects your hunger.
Incidentally, sometimes people have greater cravings for carbohydrates. They get more hungry. They gain weight in the winter.
However, there are ways to combat seasonal depression.
Be very deliberate about being social, resisting the urge to sort of lock yourself into the couch for long stretches at times.
While being social doesn't take the clouds out of the sky, it can help you forget that they're blocking the sun. You can also always seek professional help during these cold and cloudy months.
And thankfully here in East Tennessee, we don't get very long spells of cloud cover, and we do have some sunshine in our forecast once we get through this next bout of rain. That sun is going to be shining brightly on Thanksgiving, but look at the temperatures. Indoor ways to celebrate will be a good idea with highs only in the 40s on Thanksgiving. And then for Black Friday, starting the day in the 20s across our entire viewing area, only getting into the low to mid 40s in the afternoon once again despite that sunshine. And we'll have a cold start to Saturday with a chilly afternoon expected, increasing cloud cover, high near 50. That's going to be a chilly game when Vandy comes to town, so be prepared to wear your jackets. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can always get the latest in the forecast with the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.